This map shows the volume of global air traffic at any given moment. Thousands of distinct flights, moving in densely overlapping patterns across the globe, constantly tracked and logged by satellite networks and ground stations. It creates the impression that the sky is fully mapped, with every inch under constant watch. On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 operating as flight MH370 challenged that assumption. It was a 300,000-pound machine flying a standard route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, widely considered one of the safest and most reliable commercial aircraft ever built. At 1:19 a.m., the flight deck made a routine radio call to Malaysian air traffic control. The pilot stated simply, "Good night, Malaysian 370. No panic in the audio, no distress signal sent, and no mechanical failures reported. Exactly 2 minutes after that routine transmission, the plane's identifying data completely dropped off the air traffic control monitors. The massive, fully operational commercial jet simply ceased to exist on the grid, disappearing entirely from one of the most heavily monitored commercial airspace regions on the planet. This diagram shows how civilian air traffic control actually tracks aircraft. Controllers don't bounce physical radar off planes. They rely on a device inside the aircraft called a transponder. The transponder actively broadcasts the plane's identity, altitude, and speed downward to receivers in a continuous series of digital pulses. But the tracking network relies on jurisdictional handoffs. Right over the South China Sea, there is a distinct geographic boundary separating Malaysian airspace from Vietnamese airspace. As a plane crosses this line, responsibility is transferred from one country's controllers to the next. Right as Flight 370 approached this precise handover point, its transponder went silent. It stopped broadcasting outward entirely. Tying the transmission directly over the border creates a brief window of human confusion. Malaysian controllers assume the plane has safely crossed into Vietnam, while Vietnamese controllers assume it simply hasn't arrived yet. Without an active transponder, the aircraft becomes entirely invisible to standard civilian screens. This schematic visualizes the military's backup system, known as primary radar. Primary radar doesn't ask a plane to broadcast its identity. It sends out raw radio waves that physically bounce off metallic objects in the sky and return to the receiver, displaying a raw, unidentified blip. That military system detected a blip making a sharp 180-degree turn away from the route to Beijing, banking aggressively back across the Malaysian peninsula. The path wasn't a slow, aimless drift. The aircraft leveled out and flew accurately from one established aviation waypoint to the next, a maneuver that requires someone actively referencing navigational charts to steer. This map displays the maximum physical range of the region's primary radar installations. The aircraft maintained its new heading right up until it crossed the absolute edge of this coverage zone. Once it slipped past that perimeter line, physical radar tracking stopped completely. The specific timing of the transponder shutdown at the border, the precision of the turn, and the final exit from radar range point to a targeted sequence of actions. The flight was navigated to purposefully exploit the operational limits of both civilian and military networks. Even with the standard communications disabled, one final system remained operational. Deep inside the aircraft's electronics bay sits a satellite data unit. It is a maintenance tool designed to log engine performance, and it operates entirely independent of the pilot's control panels. This diagram illustrates an automated background protocol known as a handshake. Once every hour, the plane's terminal sends a faint, invisible digital ping up to a commercial Inmarsat satellite in high Earth orbit. It's a connection check confirming the system has power, but it does not transmit GPS coordinates. By analyzing the minute timing offsets and the Doppler frequency shift of these final pings, data scientists calculated the distance between the moving plane and the satellite. This mapped out an immense curved path known as the seventh arc, representing the plane's final projected location based on the last recorded handshake. That arc runs directly over the southern Indian Ocean. It is an area defined by thousands of meters of crushing depth, violently rough seas, and immense distance from any landmass or emergency airstrip. The satellite mathematics definitively prove the aircraft kept flying for hours into the deep ocean after going dark. But knowing the distance to a satellite only provides a radius, not an exact set of coordinates, leaving searchers with a sprawling, impossible search zone across millions of square miles of open water. 16 months later, the abstraction of satellite math gave way to physical reality. A jagged piece of wing, called a flaperon, washed ashore on Reunion Island. It was encrusted with barnacles and quickly matched by serial number to the missing 777, confirming the flight ended violently in the ocean. Regulators reacted immediately to the technological flaws the crash exposed. they mandated longer battery lifespans for the underwater locator beacons attached to flight recorders, ensuring recovery teams have a much larger window to listen for signals in deep water. But solving the core problem of a vanishing aircraft required an overhaul of the entire tracking infrastructure. This led to the implementation of the Global Aeronautical Distress and Safety System. Under this new technical framework, modern commercial aircraft are required to carry autonomous tracking systems. These devices automatically transmit the plane's precise position every 1 to 15 minutes, and they are explicitly engineered so that human operators in the cockpit cannot manually switch them off. The loss of 239 lives proved that a hyper-connected world still contained massive, unmonitored voids. MH370 forced the aviation industry to engineer out the blind spots, ensuring the technical loopholes that allowed a massive commercial jet to